Welcome, my dear children, to the second module of ninth Standard Science session. We are going for the next session of Chapter 5, that is the second module of Chapter 5, Fundamental Unit of Life. In the first session, I had discussed about a cell. Later on, we went to define about a cell. We saw different structures of a cell. Later on, I told you about the activity of the onion peel, and we saw the cells of onion slide. Later on, we went on to discuss about the cell and its organelles. And before I began with those concepts, I said that we discuss about something about diffusion. And when I was explaining to you what is diffusion, it just meant to explain to you about the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen within a cell through the process of diffusion. Then I went ahead to explain to you about osmosis, the hypertonic solution, the hypotonic solution, the isotonic solution, and how the living organisms live through this process of osmosis. And now we shall discuss about certain other criteria of the cell. Now we shall discuss about our next session, in which we understand the cell and we understand what are the different organelles which are associated with the cell to help the cell perform its functions successfully so that it can survive. So now I shall show you first two types of cells, the plant cell and the animal cell. Just have an idea about the plant cell and the animal cell. Here you can see the plant cell and the animal cell. It's a cross section. And if you see, you have seen the plant cells, the chloroplast, the cell membrane, the cell wall, lysosomes, vacuoles. It's one cell that I am discussing. You have the nucleus, the endoplasmic reticulum. Now all these are the different organelles which are associated with the functioning, proper functioning of the cell, which allows the cell to remain surviving. You are having the animal structure, and I discussed last time that there are some features which are present in almost every cell. You are having the plasma membrane, or we could also call it as a cell membrane, the cell wall, the nucleus, cytoplasm, and you are having several more organelles which I will discuss again maybe in the next session. So first, when I am talking about the plasma membrane or the cell membrane, so I would say it is the outermost covering of the cell that separates the contents of the cell from its external environment. You know, the cell and the external environment, there's a separation, and this outermost covering of the cell is what we call as the plasma membrane. Now this plasma membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. It is flexible and it's a living membrane too. Now it allows the entry and exit of some of the materials inside and outside the cell. Hence it's also known as a selectively permeable membrane. I think I explained to you this word when we were discussing about osmosis. It selects and allows the entry and exit of some materials inside and outside the cell. So it's also called as a selectively permeable. It selects and then only allows the entry and exit of the material inside and outside the cell. Now to know exactly where the plasma membrane is located, you have seen the plant cell and the animal cells. And in the animal cell, if you have noticed, the brown color oval covering is what we term as cell membrane. It's the outermost part in an animal cell. But if you have looked at the plant cell, you have noticed a dark green color oval shape, which is called as a cell membrane. And just outside the dark membrane, you are having a light colored covering, that is a cell wall. So in a plant cell, the cell membrane is not the outermost. Outermost is the cell wall. And just below the cell wall, you are having the cell membrane, if you have seen it clearly. Now this plasma membrane, you can see it only through an electron microscope. You can observe the complete structure with the help of an electron microscope. Now I told you previously that the plasma membrane is a flexible membrane. And say in a unicellular organism like amoeba, which has to change its shape so that it can engulf the food and other materials from its external environment. So it helps to change the shape. And this process, which is done by amoeba to change its shape and engulf the food or other material from its external environment, is what we call as endocytosis. In the previous session, I had discussed this activity where we had put dry resins or apricot in plain water, and each gains water and swells up when placed in water. And I said it was a hypotonic solution. Just to remind you once again. However, when the same swollen resins are kept inside a sugar or a salt solution, it loses water and consequently shrinks. Now that activity is important, you have to remember it. Now we come to the next important topic, that is cell wall. Now the plant cells, in addition to the plasma membrane, I showed you in the previous diagram that you had in a plant cell you had the cell wall, and just below the cell wall there was a cell membrane. So the outermost in the plant cell was a cell wall. So the plant cells, in addition to the plasma membrane, have another rigid outer covering which is known as a cell wall. And this cell wall is mainly composed of cellulose, which is a complex substance. It provides actually structural strength to plants. It gives strength, right, to the plant. The cell wall lies outside the plasma membrane. Now, if you look at this figure, it will be more clear. You are having the cell membrane, which is a little bit yellow in color, and the outermost, which is dark green in color, which is called as a cell wall. Now these cell wall permit the cells of plants, fungi and bacteria to withstand very dilute external media without bursting. It's a very important thing. Now suppose, you and I have access to the type of water that we drink or we survive in. But in case of plants, fungi, bacteria, they are exposed to different types of environment and different types of solutions that they may be living in. Now suppose they are put in a hypotonic solution. I discussed that previously. So in a hypotonic solution, what will happen? They will swell up because more water is moving inside. Now in the case of a bacteria or fungi or plants, if the cells swell up, there is a pressure against the cells. Now in a plant cell, since they are having a cell wall, this pressure is acting against the cell wall. So the cell wall will exert equal pressure against the swollen cell. So such cells can withstand great changes in surrounding medium than the animal cells. Otherwise, what will happen if cell wall is not there? It will burst. It cannot survive. So it helps them to withstand greater changes in the surrounding medium than in animal cells. Now when a living plant cell loses water through osmosis, there is a shrinkage or contraction of the contents of the cell away from the cell wall. And this phenomena is known as plasmolysis. to make you understand better. Suppose you take a living plant cell and you put it, it's a turgid living plant cell, so it's turgid. Now you put it in a salt solution or a sugar solution. What will happen? The contents, there's a shrinkage. I'll show you in the next slide. There's a shrinkage in the contents of the cell. The cell wall is there, but the other contents of the cell will move away from the cell wall. And this phenomena that you observe is called as plasmolysis. Have you seen the normal plant cell? And what happens after they are put in a sugar or a salt solution? You can see the plasmolysed plant cell. There's a shrinkage from the wall of the cell wall. This is what we term as plasmolysis. You have an activity in your textbook that is to study plasmolysis in Rio leaf. Now it's a Rio leaf, it's a leaf. Let's take, it's a Rio plant and we take a leaf from it. We take a small section of it. Suppose we observe a cell in a Rio leaf. Now the first one, the topmost one tells you it's a turgid cell, normal cell. In the second, we put some sugar or a salt solution and slowly you see what is happening. There is a shrinkage and slowly it shrinks away from the cell wall. Now this is what we term as plasmolysis. Now one more step I go ahead to explain to you. Suppose we take this Rio leaf, we boil it in water. What happens? The cells die. Now we take this cell and we put a solution of sugar or salt in it and we observe it under a microscope. You will not see the process of plasmolysis occurring in it, which means that plasmolysis occurs in living cells. We go to the next concept, that is nucleus. It's a central, it plays a very important role in cellular reproduction. Cellular cells have to reproduce one cell, giving rise to more number of cells. And those more number of cells slowly differentiating and creating more of their own. So the nucleus plays a central role in cellular reproduction. It determines the way the cell will develop. It decides how this cell will develop. What will it look like on maturity? And this it does by directing its chemical activities. Now when I am talking about the nucleus, depending on the type of nucleus, we differentiate the organism. One as prokaryotic organism, the other as eukaryotic organism. So prokaryotic organisms are those which have primitive nucleus. For example, there are some organisms, bacteria. There is an absence of nuclear membrane. I'll show you in the next slide that what is the meaning of nuclear membrane. You'll be able to see. There's an absence of nuclear membrane. There's no nuclear membrane in that. And cytoplasm organelle so functions in such a way that they are very poorly organized in the parts of cytoplasm. Such organisms we term as prokaryotes. And the organisms which are having a nuclear membrane is what we call as eukaryote. Now you see the nuclear structure. A nuclear structure consists of the nucleolus, the nucleoplasm, the chromatid, and the nuclear pores. You see the pores, right? The gaps. And these nuclear pores are formed on the nuclear membrane. Have you seen the pores? Now the nucleus has a double layered covering called the nuclear membrane. They are having pores. So they transfer the material from inside of the nucleus to outside of the nucleus. Outside means the cytoplasm. Now what does a nucleus consist of? It contains the chromosomes, which is visible as rod-like structures. Only when the cell is about to divide, when the cell has to divide to form two new cells, at that time chromosomes becomes visible as rod-like structures. This chromosome contains DNA molecules. You very clearly know deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. And what is this DNA? It contains information for inheritance of characters from parents to the next generation. It tells the suppose the organism it's carrying the information of its parents, inheritance information of its parents from one generation to the next generation. Because this is very much necessary for constructing and organizing the cells. Now in cells which are not dividing, the DNA is present as a part of chromatin material. See, when the cells become prominent, they want to divide, they have to make two new cells. At that time, this chromatin becomes, they group it to form chromosomes in which DNA is present. Now this entangled, now when the cell doesn't divide, you must have seen an entangled mass of thread-like structures which is known as chromatin. And these chromatin structures get organized into a chromosome whenever the cell is about to divide. Now have you seen the nucleus? You have seen the nucleoplasm, the pores. You are having the endoplasmic reticulum, the nucleolus, the nuclear envelope and the inner membrane. These are the chromatin material which consists of the DNA, and you are having the cytoplasm around the nucleus. I would like you to answer the following questions, and for that you will take a 200-page book for science and will write the answers for the questions given below, and henceforth please do maintain that book for further reference. The first question says, define a cell. Second, list some unicellular organisms with diagram of any two and give reason why are they called unicellular. Third, draw the diagram of a smooth muscle cell, blood cell, nerve cell, bone cell, fat cell. Fourth one, explain the gaseous exchange between the cell as well as cell and its external environment with a suitable diagram. The fifth one, explain with diagram hypertonic solution, isotonic solution. The sixth question, define endocytosis. You can find the answer for this in your textbook too. The seventh question, why is plasma membrane called a selectively permeable membrane? That's all we have for the second session. Thank you, dear.